Hello there, and welcome back to the Small Watcher channel. I am Ramona, and this is part 4 of the what's the creepiest, most unexplained thing that's ever happened to you kind of thing. Before we get started, if you like this video or any of my videos, maybe leave a like or leave a comment, subscribe, share, that kind of thing. Also, if you enjoy coloring or you know someone who likes to color, I have a host of coloring books over on Amazon.com. There's a link in all the descriptions in my videos. Go to my authors page. And new coloring books are released every Monday. Whole bunch there, and there's some novels, there's some other stuff. Just take a look around. Wouldn't mind it. Anyway, here we go. Into part number 4. When I was a kid, our fire detectors used to go off at 3 a.m. on the anniversary of my paternal grandmother's death. Like all of them in the entire house, and it was a 6,000 square foot house. During one of the occurrences, wolf spiders and a few black widows, it says windows, but I'm assuming widows, started crawling out of the cracks in the wall. We lived on a Native American burial ground. Apparently, she was a very hard and bad woman. After all, not proud to say this, but my grandfather was part of the Lutheran version of the SS in Lithuania, after the Nazis came to take over after the Russians invaded. Both he and she absolutely hated certain groups of people until their deaths. I've never had any paranormal experiences since then, but I've had a few creepy things happen to me at my childhood home, located on the bounds of the burial ground. I was around 7 or 8 years old when I got home from school. I was often alone at home when I got home around that time, so I didn't expect someone to be at home. I remember I looked up the door and to open it, and it sounded like there was someone in the kitchen. The kitchen was directly into the right of the hallway. It sounded like someone took out a plate and how it slides towards the other plate it was staked on. I got a little surprised because I didn't expect someone to be home, but I guess my dad had come home early, so I said hello and went into the kitchen. But there was no one there, and no one was home either, other than myself. It freaked me out so much that I went and sat outside and called my mom. She called a neighbor who came over and brought me home to her house because I refused to go back into my home until my parents came home. I was chilling when behind me I heard a child say, "I love you, Daddy." I was home alone, and I do not have children. When I was 14, I was listening to music through my headphones. This was in 1995, and I was sitting in the back of my parents' car as we were driving to upstate New York. All of a sudden, I heard this static in my headphones, and I thought I intercepted a police radio. But these two male voices came on and said, "We're going to get you." And that's all they said. Initially, I thought it was the police chasing after someone, but the message felt personal, so I rewinded my tape, thinking that I must have recorded something from the radio by mistake. But when I listened to the tape again, the voices were not there. 10 years later, in 2005, I was staying the night with my friends in Florida. I wanted to watch some videos before going to sleep, and I didn't want to disturb them, so I put on headphones, and I actually was just sitting in silence for a while before watching anything. The same static came on, and in my heart, my heart immediately dropped, and I just knew what was next. And surely enough, same two male voices came on, but this time they were laughing and said, don't worry, we're gonna get you." And again, that's all they said. 10 years later, in 2015, and maybe it's just a coincidence, I had serious complications while giving birth to my first child, and these complications left me disabled. Perhaps they did get me, after all. I never saw these entities. I've only ever heard them through my headphones those 2 times, but the message was loud and clear. We're in 2025 now, and the story is to be continued. One of the oddest but explainable things happened to my kitchen a few years ago. I was going about whatever I was doing, and I heard a glass break. Nobody else was there, so I thought something had fallen off a shelf. When I went to the kitchen, I didn't see any broken glass anywhere, so I kept looking, which eventually led me to an open cupboard. When I did, I saw glass everywhere, but no real explanation for what had occurred. I finally found the focal point, and it was like the glass had independently exploded. There was so much force to what occurred that tiny pieces of glass had embedded themselves into the inner door of the cupboard. I later heard that sometimes glass produced with flaws that store energy, and when the stress finally overcomes the integrity of the material, it can break, or in this case, explode. A few years after both my parents had passed and I was still living in the house that I inherited, One day I was out running errands in my car and had stopped to get gas nearby. My cell phone rang, and it was my home's phone number that came up on the caller ID. Now, keep in mind, I was living alone at the time. I turned around and went home to find nothing unusual. To this day, I have no idea what the heck happened. Myself and a client, I bless houses as part of my job, saw a woman in a blue floral dress on her stairs, but at different times. We hadn't talked together about this woman, and I was blessing the house and saw there clear as day from behind a mirror on the stairs. I turned the stairs where she would be standing, and she was gone. When I asked the client, "What's going to make you think this house is haunted?" she listed a bunch of generic stuff, light switches turning off and on, she hears talking, feels watched, and said, "Oh, and there's a woman who watches me sleep from the top of the stairs." And she proceeded to give me the exact fitting of the description I saw in the mirror. Another time, a friend of mine and I snuck out to see his girlfriend when we were young. When we were approaching her house, we both saw a child in a white flower dress run across the road. We looked at each other, confused, and were like, "That was a weird cat," and then we laughed. As we kept walking, we saw the girl run across the road again and into the driveway of his girlfriend's house. We were creeped, but we went to her place. When we were there, we were chilling in the dark in the lounge, when suddenly the surrounding sound system turned on full volume, on white noise, and it didn't turn off after we unplugged it. It was super creepy. Probably 2019 or 10, I woke up one morning to a black dog looking at me from the side of the bed. Things were blurry. I wear glasses and had just woken up, so I didn't get a crystal clear look at it. Once I noticed it, it turned, walked out of the door of the bedroom, and out of the door. Walked to the foot of the bed and then out of the door. We didn't have a dog. It didn't make a noise, and didn't seem threatening or negative at all. I wouldn't say I was scared, just confused, and I never saw it again. I don't remember if I tried to move, or couldn't, or I just purposely stayed still. It kind of looked like my childhood dog that we had put down when I was around 14 or 15. At the time, I was 20, 21-ish. I often wonder if it was him or something else. I have a few. Happy to share more if people are interested. This was just really unsettling, and I cannot think of a logical explanation. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I was an adult when this happened. It wasn't creepy or just waking up or anything. If this was a hallucination, I've never had any before or since, and I was not ill at the time. I got home from work on a bonfire night, November 5th. This was probably around 5 to 6 p.m. It was quite dark, because it's winter and I live in England, and I knew fireworks would be going off soon, so decided to take the dogs a quick walk around the street beforehand. Both dogs were on leads, and one chases cats or small animals. Walking down the street to my house, typical suburban street, quite dark with some occasional street lamps. Then a shape dropped from the hedge to the ground, probably about a foot on the floor and less than 6 feet in front of me. I clearly remember holding my dog's lead tighter and moving in front of him, ready for him to go apeshit at this assumed cat. It was so close to us, I thought the dog would actually reach it. That's why I grabbed the lead so tight. It took a second for my brain to process what I was seeing. The shape was shorter than your average cat in height, and much longer in the body. The tail was very long and bushy towards the end. Its face was more triangular than a cat, slightly fox-like, but without the snout, and the ears were angled to the sides of the head, not the top. Its eyes were dark, or just black, and oversized for its head. It was pure white to the point of it glowing all over, like it was generating its own light. It was shining on the wall over the road and casting shadows behind me and was almost too bright to look at. The thing looked down at me in the eyes for at least 5 seconds, and I was too freaked out to move. The entire time I was waiting for the dog to freak. He was staring right at it. Both dogs were. But he didn't do his normal lunging Darth Snarl routine. Between one blink and the next, it was gone, and I felt left a streak of after image in my vision from the bright light, like it had run off behind me. I didn't see it move. The dogs looked behind us, and then just looked at me like they were ready to carry on home. When I say I nearly ran home and couldn't stop shaking, that's an understatement. I do believe in paranormal things being a possible answer, but I'm always open to logical, scientific explanations first. I can't explain this. I still look to the hedge every time I walk, and it still freaks me out. In 2008, I saw something wild. There was this black orb about the size of a basketball just floating above the ground. Then it started to shift and transform into something humanoid but massive, probably around 23 feet tall. It was sitting there, hugging its knees until it noticed me. Then when it did, it stood up, and I ran. My parents, brother, and his friend left for hockey practice, leaving me home alone. 10 minutes after they left, I heard my brother and his friend talking as they walked down the hallway toward my room. I walked into the hallway to ask if they had forgotten something, but to my surprise, no one was there, and the talking had stopped. I looked through the whole house and in the driveway, but no one was there. I was still so sure that I had heard them that I actually called my parents to ask if they had come home, which they said they hadn't. It was so bizarre, and I'll never forget the feeling of realizing I was in fact alone in the house. Nobody will believe this, but around 2019, my group of friends and I were sitting in a circle at my friend's house, and a cross that was hanging on one wall flung itself into the wall across from it and stuck. We all screamed. I have a lot, but one I haven't shared was with when my cousin died 6 months after my brother did. I was at my mother's, and we were planning to go the next day to see him. I was up late watching movies when all of a sudden I could hear a grown man crying. I looked out the windows and saw no one. I went to see if my nephew was okay, but he was sleeping. There were no other men in the house. I sat on the couch when I started hearing glass being scratched on top of the man crying. Suddenly, it felt like time stood still and my heart began to creep. I said out loud, "Is that you, bro?" I swear it felt like his ghost was about to appear to me, but I felt an immense fear from whatever it was. It stopped and went away. The next day, my mother was telling me how she had seen my cousin at the hospital, and my cousin told her that my brother was going to let him take him with him. I called his daughter to ask what time visiting hours were. She told me that he had died, and coincidentally, it was around the time I heard the man crying. Did my brother come for my cousin? I can't make these things up. I had the exact same nightmare every night for months on end when I was around 9 or 10 years old. I would be lucid, and I know that it was the same dream sometimes, but the same things would still happen, and the demonic thing would still be coming after me. Back in 1991, I lived in a big house with a number of friends. I saw pure black energy in the basement, which used to be servants' quarters. After hearing someone calling my name every time I switched on my hairdryer, it then said my name behind me after I looked in all 4 empty bedrooms, and I knew no one was there. And as I left to run, it appeared to the left side of me on the staircase, the opposite side of my shadow. I was terrified. After months of being haunted, hearing noises and footsteps around my bed and snoring next to me, I just left one Sunday afternoon with my 2 friends, as we couldn't stay another night. It had come into my room, whistling. I was scared, so I got my 2 friends to come and listen. At first there was nothing, no sound. Then after about 5 minutes of me trying to get it to repeat the noise, it began. One friend left the room pretty terrified. The other spoke out, telling it to just leave me alone. I just suddenly heard it was now whistling a recognizable tune, and I knew I needed to move out. It was the nursery rhyme of Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf. Another friend then moved in, telling me she hoped she got to see it. That wish came true one night when she'd gone into the basement to hit the emergency electric button. It was a man, suited, grinning at her. He then folded his arms and leaned against the doorway. She ran, screaming. I hear he's still there. The landlord's son now lives in the house and has had very unsettling experiences. Added note, this was in Lancashire, England. We knew the basement used to be the servants' quarters, as the old servant bell was still on the wall. Well, there you go. I think we're going to end that with those, because that one's pretty hard to top. It was a pretty creepy one. I liked it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. Maybe leave a comment. If not, that's okay too. There's plenty of other videos here on the channel. Go check a few out. Thank you for listening and watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.